Coming up on the November 12th edition of Sports Extra. Basketball's back in Chapel Hill, but could there be some trouble? And there's a rhino, a rhino in this field hockey player's house. And we'll acknowledge that Georgia Tech ran all over us on Saturday. Sports Extra starts right now.
From the University of North Carolina School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering the full range of Tar Heel athletics, this is Sports Extra.
Hello and welcome to Sports Extra, Carolina's only highlights, analysis, and issues show. I'm Natalia Perez.
And I'm Sefe Amakpai. Like I always say, it's great to be a Tar Heel. And this weekend, it was great to be an American. To all of our veterans and current servicemen and women, thank you for all that you do.
Can't say that enough, Sefe. But it wasn't a great weekend for the Tar Heel defense. I'm Will Reimer.
But before we get into that, it's the most wonderful time of year. No, it's not Christmas, it's basketball season. Sports Extra reporter Janelle Davis says the weekend didn't go as well as the Heels would have hoped.
The men's basketball team is now 2-0 after beating Gardner-Webb and Florida Atlantic this weekend, the first weekend of regular season basketball. Coach Williams says he's not happy with the team's performance, but he sees improvement.
I do think we got better as a team. I think we were better defensively. I did lose it a couple of times out there today because of just silly mistakes, but the two guys that I was yelling at, it was their second college game.
The young team's main weakness against Florida Atlantic was free throws.
I usually say the heck with it, shoot them and make them. But 4 for 14, I said to our coaching staff I was going to jump them because, you know, you worry about hurting confidence. How the crap can you get worse than 4 for 14? I mean, that's the way I looked at it.
James Michael McAdoo and Reggie Bullock have emerged as leaders on the team. McAdoo had 26 points and 14 rebounds against Gardner-Webb, and he didn't slow down on Sunday. He recorded another double-double with 19 points and 11 rebounds against FAU. Bullock led the team with 4 steals and 7 assists.
James is a little quieter, but he leads by example, and, you know, when he needs to say something, he'll say something. And Reggie's just a great overall leader, and he's helped us freshmen out a lot.
As fans celebrate 2 victories this weekend, the team is already looking ahead to its first game on the road. In Chapel Hill, I'm Janelle Davis.
You know, we have 2 home games underneath our belt now, but it's our road games time, and they're coming up soon. We play Long Beach State on Friday. They were in the NCAA tournament last year, and I'm excited to see how we do against them.
Yeah, we also have the Maui Invitational coming up down in Hawaii over Thanksgiving next week, and they're going to have some difficult matchups, and won't be back in the Dean Dome until December.
Yeah, these games are going to be chances for the team to grow, and it's a young team, guys. I mean, they need to improve, but we're going to have to give them some time.
Absolutely, it's understandable. And moving on from basketball.
This looks like another basketball score. Here's the hidden stat of the week. 118 points. That's the most total points ever in an ACC football game, ever. Fedora's probably happy about the 50 points his offense scored, but he's likely disappointed in his defense, which gave up 68 points to the Yellow Jackets. 118 points, that's almost 2 points per minute, and a touchdown every 4 minutes.
And reporter Mike Rodriguez recorded all of those touchdowns Saturday, and he joins us now. Mike, you a little tired from running around all day?
Will, I missed 2 days in August, so I'm in need of some oxygen here. You probably expected a big game on the ground with a triple option offense and Heisman candidate Gio Bernard on the same field. And that's exactly what you got. At the end of the day, the Yellow Jackets stung the Heels.
8 players ran for a combined 11 touchdowns on the day. Bernard opened up the game with this 4-yard touchdown run less than 2 minutes into the game. But he struggled on the ground the rest of the day, by his standards anyway, rushing for 78 yards on 16 carries. Every time the Heels scored, the Yellow Jackets countered, rushing for 380 yards and 7 touchdowns. And the triple option actually opened up the passing game for Georgia Tech. The Jackets completed only 7 passes, but it was good for more than 200 yards and a touchdown. Head coach Larry Fedora was embarrassed by the defensive effort for the Heels.
Practices were good. If I would have saw that coming, I probably wouldn't have shown up today.
The lone bright spot for the porous defense was Tim Scott's interception for a touchdown early in the 4th quarter. He now leads the team with 4 interceptions this season.
I really just took 2 shuffle steps to make it seem like I'm playing man on him, and I just stopped and read the quarterback, and that's when he threw the ball, and I just jumped it.
But it was too little too late, and the Yellow Jackets sealed the deal with a 22-yard touchdown run less than 4 minutes later.
Bernard struggled on the ground, but to be fair, he had 6 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, it's not a bad game for sure, Mike, but that won't help his Heisman hopes, will it?
It's a sad day, William Reimer. I should be in all black, not this great shade of blue, because we have to bury Bernard's Heisman candidacy. And you might not be able to see smoke to the side over here, but it's the bandwagon I had to burn. Secondhand smoke, I have asthma, this isn't good.
You know what, Mike? I think you'll be okay. Why don't you just go get some water?
Thanks, Will. It's an emotional day.
I'm sure it is, Mike, but I think you'll recover. Thanks, Mike. That was Mike Rodriguez, live in studio.
And one guy Mike didn't bring up was freshman wideout Quinshot Davis, who wins this week's offensive game of ball. He led the team with 7 catches for 104 yards, both career highs. It's always impressive when a freshman goes beyond the century mark. And of course, when the team scores 50 points, you'd expect the leading receiver to find the end zone. But really, he was the only wideout to score for the Heels. Davis caught this 11-yard touchdown late in the third quarter, his third of the season. We should have expected a big game from him. Davis plays much better at home. 28 of his 36 receptions this season have been in Kenan Stadium.
You know, I don't think we should expect a good game from Davis this weekend, considering the fact that we're going to be away. But who will step up for the Heels? Because, you know, what defense really didn't do it last week.
Well, despite Mike bearing his Heisman hopes, Gio Bernard, of course, is what I think. Virginia gives up more than 140 yards rushing every game, and I'm not saying I think they're going to lose, but, you know, just to say.
Yeah, and someone else who's going to have to step up for the Heels is Eric Ebron, the big tight end. He struggled against Georgia Tech. He only had 2 catches for 22 yards. If the Heels are going to beat Virginia on Thursday, Eric Ebron's going to have a big game.
And do we really have to give someone the defensive game ball, Steph?
I know we do it every week.
68 points. 68 points. But it looks like it's not up to us. Despite the eye-gouging performance by the defense, we'll give this weekend's defensive game ball to senior linebacker Kevin Reddick. He led the team with 14 tackles, including 2 tackles for a loss. Reddick's just padding his stats here. He now has 72 tackles on the season and 14 for a loss. If the whole defense played the same as Reddick's intensity, maybe they could have done a lot better. He was all over the field and in the middle of every play. 68 points, guys. We really shouldn't have given out a defensive game ball, but hey, what are we going to do?
Yeah, and what's scary is they had 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia Tech. They have even less time. They have, 4 days until Thursday against Virginia. They're going to have to do something.
Yeah, that's a great point, Steph. I mean, you're just wondering how they're going to prepare for this game on Thursday, but we'll have our predictions for that later in the show.
And when the Heels lose, it's always tough to find a key play, but we've got to do it anyway. Of course, the triple option did the Heels in this week. Early in the fourth quarter, senior tailback Orrin Smith ran it from 22 yards out to seal the victory for the Yellow Jackets. Freshman quarterback Vad Lee froze number 42 Shaquille Rashad on the field right here. Rashad tried to recover, but the rest was up to Smith, who went untouched until Jabari Price met him at the goal line, but it was too late. That's 6 points for Smith, and it sealed the win for the Yellow Jackets.
And you know what? It's time to move on. Let's just forget about this football game. The president of ESPN, John Skipper, he came to campus this weekend, and our own Jennifer Brodish sat down with the Carolina alum to talk about the company's mission.
Our mission is to serve fans, so we're not trying to tell them what they like. We're trying to represent what they like.
So how have the college conference changes kind of affected at ESPN and the coverage and that kind of thing recently?
Well, the realignment and schools moving around to different conferences has affected us mostly because it's mostly meant that we have to redo our agreements with the conferences to account for that. We don't have any significant preference relative to schools moving around, despite some reports that we are behind this. We're not behind this. We have agreements with all the current conferences, so we're happy if everybody stays in place.
How do you choose what sports and sporting events that you play, necessarily? I mean, you have many channels, but how do you choose what goes on each one?
Well, we have to sort of balance between having those sports that matter the most to people right now and those sports that are going to matter more to people. And of course, the first is easy, right? We know that people care about football and basketball and baseball. We think they're going to care about soccer and lacrosse. We think women's sports is a real growth area.
Now, you mentioned women's sports, but how do you think women just in general, how do you think their role in sports has changed over the years? And do you think they're going to continue to progress and be more involved with sports media, or what do you think their role is?
So the answer is yes and yes. They will certainly be more involved, more influential. Last year we celebrated at ESPN the 40th anniversary of Title IX, which is, for women's sports, the single most profound thing, right? The proclamation, and it wasn't all about women's sports. It was about equality, around a bunch of things. But the legislation had the effect of ensuring that women had equal opportunity for sports in college. It's created a revolution.
And that was Sports Xtra's Jennifer Brodish with Tar Heel alum and president of ESPN, John Skipper. And so what is this rhino doing in a Tar Heels house?
We'll tell you after the break, and don't go away because I promise you're not going to want to miss this one.
Brush your teeth every day and every night. Now it's your parents' turn. Here's what you gotta do. Let them have your toothbrush so that they can brush your teeth. Good job, you're almost done. 4, 3, 2, 1, now spit. Help your teeth stay healthy. Brush with a grown-up every day.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all living united to ensure the academic success of millions of kids in our communities all the way to graduation day. But that won't happen without you. So take the pledge at unitedway.org. Make a difference in the life of a child. Suit up like your favorite NFL players and become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor with United Way.
From the University of North Carolina School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering the full range of Tar Heel athletics, this is Sports Xtra.
The women's tennis team hosted the 9th annual Kitty Harrison Invitational this weekend. The 10-team tournament lasted 3 days, with the Tar Heels dominating in both singles and doubles divisions. This tournament was redemption for senior Laura McHale, who's returning from a fractured foot in the off-season. McHale lost the singles final to Duke's Mary Clayton, but won in the doubles finals against the pair from Marshall with teammate Tessa Lyons. This tournament wrapped up the fall season for the Heels.
The field hockey team downed Old Dominion in the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament yesterday at Henry Stadium. Carolina got on board early when Emily Bold scored in the 5th minute of the game. Minutes later, senior and team captain Caitlin Van Sickle rebounded the ball, found the top right corner of the cage right there, and giving the Heels a 2-0 lead at halftime. The Heels continue to challenge ODU's goalie in the second half, taking a total of 17 shots on goal. Carolina was able to pull one last goal from Marta Malmberg right there. The Monarchs had only 4 shots on goal all game, and only one would get past the Heels, making the final score 3-1. This victory provided the Heels with a ticket to the Final Four, their 17th appearance in the national semifinals. They'll take on Syracuse, the only team that's beaten them this season, and head coach Karen Shelton says the Heels have something new for the Orange.
What we're excited about is when we played them, we didn't have Charlotte Craddock in the lineup, so they haven't seen her. And she is a factor for our team. You know, these guys and Wald and, you know, Charlotte, you know, those are 4 stellar players and surrounded by the rest of the team. So they haven't seen Charlotte yet.
And you don't want to miss this next story. I met redshirt sophomore field hockey player Samantha Travers. She had a rhino as a roommate.
At first glance, Samantha Travers is your typical college athlete. She attends classes, studies every day, and suits up in Carolina blue to play defense for the field hockey team. But growing up was anything but typical for this Zimbabwe native.
I was brought up into like a very different lifestyle. Like I've always had strange pets in my house. I've had a hyena, I've had, you know, a cheetah, I've had like a couple ostriches, a wildebeest. Like I've always grown up completely surrounded by animals. And that's what my parents' entire life is about.
Travers' family runs an 11,000-acre game preserve. That's just a few miles smaller than all of Chapel Hill.
My farm's huge. It's 11,000 acres. We have 4 of the big 5. You know, we have the elephants, the rhinos, the buffalo, we have lions.
The list goes on and on. But for Travers, one particular pet touched her heart. A cheetah named Boise.
He was amazing. He would literally, come jump on your bed and lick your face. He wouldn't hurt a fly.
Animal Planet was so fascinated with the Travers' family that they did an hour-long documentary on a black rhino named Tatenda and his transition from adopted son to wild animal.
We introduced him to the other rhinos because how would he know what he was? He'd only been around humans and the other animals he'd seen. So I got to experience that entire thing, which was great. And then you see him, he still knows exactly who my mum is, but now he knows he's a rhino.
There may no longer be a rhino sharing the breakfast table with Travers here in Chapel Hill, but she says her pet gerbil and stuffed animals will have to do.
Compared to Travers' pets, mine just don't seem as exciting. What is exciting, though, is its Final Four time for the field hockey team. The men's soccer team was hoping to repeat the ACC tournament champions this weekend.
Yeah, they were, Natalia, but Maryland, they had other plans. The Terrapins jumped out to an early lead when Dakota Edwards scored his first career goal in the 11th minute. That was only the second first-half goal the Tar Heels conceded all year. Then Maryland made it a 2-goal advantage in the 62nd minute. And this was only the first time Carolina gave up 2 goals since the NCAA semifinal last year. The Heels made it interesting with 5 minutes left. Rob Lovejoy scored his 5th goal of the season, though he's only played in 8 games. Carolina will learn where it's seeded for the national tournament in just a few minutes. The selection show is at 5:30 p.m. on NCAA.com.
The women's soccer team defeated Radford University this weekend, advancing toward the College Cup. Kelly Glendening was at Fetzer Field Saturday.
To kick off the NCAA tournament, the Tar Heels took on Big South Conference champion Radford on Saturday at Fetzer Field. Carolina was able to kill the Highlanders' 17-game winning streak with a final score of 2-0. After a scoreless first half, the Tar Heels came out of the locker room determined to knock Radford out of the tournament. A spark of hope came in the 57th minute when senior midfielder Amber Brooks sank a rebounded ball into the back of the net.
So I just get in the box because usually look for head. They played a short ball. I think Chris got through, got across, it went to Summer. She got a shot off, and the keeper made a nice save. She kind of just parried it, and I was able to just jump in on it and toe it in.
A second goal in the 73rd minute sealed the game for UNC. After a beautiful pass from teammate Alyssa Rich, Crystal Dunn shot far post to make it past Radford's keeper. With seconds left in the game, senior standout Kalia Ohai went down with what appeared to be an ankle injury. Although the severity of her injury is still unknown, the Heels will have to prepare for the possibility of playing without their key player.
It'd be a great loss if Kate coming back. Yeah, I don't even want to think about her not coming back, but like I said before, I mean, this is a great team, and people step up, and God forbid Kay isn't back in time, but we'll definitely have people to try and fill in her spot.
In Chapel Hill, I'm Kelly Glendening.
The Heels will take on Illinois this Friday at 6:30 p.m. at Fetzer Field in the second round.
These Tar Heels are having a party.
And you're invited.
You can sit with me, imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite. Unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time. One book could be the first thing helps to change a life. People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Suis la cadence, on lève bien tes hanches au bal du dimanche. Danse, que la fête commence. Dans ma belle robe blanche, je suis ton chou.
You didn't give up on sex, don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Find yours at bedsider.org.
Thank you for calling your GED Pep Talk Center. All right, now, are you ready for your GED Pep Talk?
Being nervous is okay. It just shows that you're serious about getting your diploma.
A lot of things are scary. Heck, I'm scared of clowns.
No quiero oír. No lo puedo hacer.
DMC, life in your pep talk style.
Just keeping it real, Debs. Just keeping it real.
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
We already talked about the men's basketball team, but basketball season is underway for the women's team too. The Heels began the preseason women's NIT with wins against Davidson and Duquesne. Freshman Zelina McDaniel had a double-double in her collegiate debut against the Wildcats Friday. See her with a sweet baby hook right there. The forward had 18 points and 12 rebounds to help the Heels pull away for a 70-59 victory. Carolina exploited the smaller Davidson squad, scoring 56 points in the paint. Sunday, the Heels rallied from an 11-point halftime deficit to beat Duquesne. Senior guard Tiara Ruffin-Pratt led the Heels with a career-high 24 points. Krista Gross and Waltia Roll added double-doubles. The Heels host Georgetown Wednesday at 7 p.m. for a spot in the WNIT final.
It was an up-and-down weekend for the volleyball team. Live now in the studio is Madison Way. So it didn't get off to a good start, did it, Madison?
That's right, Cefe. Friday, Georgia Tech upset the 22nd ranked Tar Heels. The Yellow Jackets won Friday's match in 5 sets. Kayla Berenger led the Heels with 14 kills, and Emily McGee added 13 kills and 12 digs. The Heels had 14 service errors, which Coach Segula said was a key to the loss. But Carolina recovered Sunday to top the Clemson Tigers in 4 sets. Paige Neuenfeld and Lauren Atkins both had 13 kills to lead the Heels. McGee led the team with 19 digs and added 10 kills. The Heels return to Carmichael Arena this weekend, and their final 3 matches are all at home. Carolina is currently 12-0 in Carmichael, and a big reason for that is its home court advantage.
Blocks, digs, sets, kills. You need all of them to win a volleyball match. But there's something else you'll need. Fans. One group of UNC first years knows that, and they're bringing in some spirit.
We have the great fans this year. We have the most loyal fans we've ever had with a little block party section.
They're called the Block Party, and you can find them in the student section at every home game. And when the Heels do this, the Block Party does this.
Whenever you had fans out there, it was always great to have a lot of people out there and supportive. So we just want to be that for the girls. You have like all the people at football games and all the people at basketball games. So we want to be that for them because they don't have that every game.
They usually just cheer from the bleachers, but during timeouts, they try a different tactic. Distraction. Block Party members dance behind the opponent's bench during most timeouts. They're not sure how effective it is in distracting the other team, but they do know the crowd loves it.
We really just want to have fun with it, and it's really fun to see like the crowd interact with us. Like most of the time, they're loving it. So it's just something that we do that's part of the Block Party.
Either way, their support must be working. The Heels haven't lost a match in Carmichael yet.
Sure. And you know, Cefe, some of them aren't even allowed to dance at games anymore because they were distracting the opposing teams.
Well, Madison, they're certainly not distracting you, are they?
No, after spending so much time with them this week, I've gotten a little used to it. But how
can I join the Block Party?
You can check them out at Carmichael this weekend when the volleyball team takes on Virginia Tech. Or you can follow them at Twitter at UNC_Block Party.
Thanks, Madison, and thanks, Block Party. That was Madison Way and the Block Party joining us live in the studio.
I sure want to be a part of that. Now, it was a great weekend for sophomore runner Leanne Farber.
Yeah, but not for the men's and women's cross-country teams at the NCAA regionals this weekend. Farber finished 5th overall with a 6K time of 20 minutes and 31 seconds. She'll represent UNC this weekend in Louisville at Nationals. The top 2 teams qualify for Nationals, but the women finished in 5th place. And the men's team was even more disappointed, finishing in 11th place overall. Scott Morgan led the Heels. He finished 36th overall with a 10K time of 31 minutes and 5 seconds.
The season might be ending for most of cross-country team, but the wrestling team began its season Friday night.
The Heels lost their match to visiting Arizona State. Carolina got off to a good start, but the Sun Devils took down Carolina 21-16. Carolina started strong. Sophomore Evan Henderson scored 4 points for the Heels after a 13-4 victory in his match, earning a major decision after winning by more than 7. But the Sun Devils wouldn't go away. First, Blake Stauffer came away with 6 points after pinning sophomore Frank Abendaza. The heavyweight Levi Cooper got the best of UNC's Jake Barnhart for another Arizona State pin. The Heels will still face both South Dakota State and Nebraska in Lincoln on Sunday.
And will we see the Wahoos light up the Heels Thursday night?
We'll make our predictions after the break. Stick around.
By disaster in America.
We need to put names.
And we're right there, providing food. With more than 200 food banks, reaching communities all across America. Donate now for immediate relief and long-term recovery. Every dollar helps provide food for disaster victims. Help now at feedingamerica.org.
It was not. It was like.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Here we go. We're gonna make some juice.
It's gonna be good.
She's excited. A little bit of kale.
Please don't put this on line.
I'm putting it all over the line.
It's wet. It needs something. No, it'll go.
Don't break my juicer. Looks good.
You ready to try it?
Come on, baby.
Challenge your kids to be active and eat healthy.
It's okay.
Okay, all right.
They might surprise you.
She took another sip. You saw it?
Search We Can for more ideas on how you and your kids can get healthy together.
Intramurals, we've all played them. I met the director of intramurals, Justin Ford, who officiates more than just campus sports.
Fans, cheerleaders, big plays. You see those at high school football games. What you don't expect to see is UNC faculty. But this ref is also the director of intramurals here. He started officiating while in college.
I guess I wanted to officiate just to stay active in sports. And so my freshman year, I saw a flyer for flag football official for $6 an hour, and I was like, I'm sold.
But what keeps him working on a frigid fall Friday night?
I'm always setting a goal for myself to work, at the highest level.
And he's done that, officiating last year's state championship game. But he admits he's still not perfect.
I'm good about 95% of the time, but there's that 5% that I'm thinking about on the drive home.
And if he does make a difficult call, do the fans let him know about it?
I do hear the fans from time to time, but it's more of like comic relief.
Ford says the comedy goes in one ear and out the other, so we can focus on making the next call.
The Heels are in prime time this week, taking on UVA in Charlottesville Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. The defense could be in for another long day, but maybe not for the D-line. The Cavaliers have only the 89th best rush offense in the country, averaging about 130 yards per game. The secondary will probably give up more long touchdowns in the air. UVA throws for more than 280 yards per game and has scored more than 30 points in its past 2 games, so it could be another shootout Thursday night.
And the game is just a few days away. It's now time for us to make our picks. Will, since you were the only one who technically wasn't wrong last week because you weren't on desk, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, well, Virginia, they've got 2 quarterbacks, Michael Rocco and Phillip Sims, and we have trouble stopping one. Now, the Heels offense is really explosive, and I expect something like last week, a kind of big scoring game. Maybe not 68-50, though. I think a couple 2-point conversions separates the 2 teams. Heels 37, UVA 35.
It's been a short week, and we don't always play too good against UVA on the road, but I'm all about Bernard. I mean, the Cavaliers gave up 233 rushing yards last week, and I predict that Bernard is going to run all over them as fast as he possibly can, and I have UNC 41, UVA 28.
Well, I'm going to be a little different here, and I'm going to say Virginia. I think their momentum is up. They're going to be playing at home. The Heels let me down last time. Come on, they let me down a lot. I might have jinxed them by saying I was picking them again against Georgia Tech, but I'm going to have to say Virginia 38, UNC 24. And if the Heels are going to beat UVA Thursday, Gio Bernard will have to have another big game. He's the first Tar Heel running back to run for at least 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons since Natrone Means in 1991 and 1992, and he should be able to add that total Thursday. The Cavaliers gave up 144 yards per game on the ground.
And that does it for this edition of Sports Extra. Thanks for watching, and good night.